The lights snapped white-hot, and Michael's hair caught fire. 3 seconds before anyone screamed. He didn't know yet. The 6th take of the Pepsi commercial was running smooth. The pyrotechnic cues timed to the beat, the cameras locked on his silhouette descending the stairs. The crowd of extras roared on cue. Michael hit his mark, spun once, and the stage erupted in calculated fire. Sparks, smoke, colored flame. All choreographed, all safe. Except the magnesium charge 2 feet behind his head misfired by 0.8 seconds. The heat kissed his scalp first. Then it bit. His hair, treated with product, whipped into shape under hot lights for 5 hours, ignited like kindling. A halo of flame wrapped around the back of his head, small at first, then spreading. He kept moving for 2 beats. The music was still playing. The crowd was still cheering. He thought it was stage heat, the normal burn of standing too close to controlled explosions. Then someone shouted, "Mike, your head!" He raised his hand instinctively, touched the back of his skull, and his palm came away singed. That's when he smelled it. Burned hair, chemical smoke, the acrid smell of damaged skin. He dropped to one knee, the music cut. A stagehand sprinted from the wings with a jacket, threw it over Michael's head, smothered the flames in 4 frantic pats. The crowd went silent. Michael stayed on the ground, breathing through the fabric, his hands shaking. He could feel the blisters already forming, the skin tightening, pulling. Someone was yelling for paramedics, someone else was crying. He lifted his head, pulled the jacket away, and looked up at the lighting grid, still burning with residual sparks, and thought, absurdly, I have to finish this take. But the medics were already there. What you saw on the news wasn't the full story. The cameras caught the fire. They didn't catch what happened in the hospital over the next several days, the moment that changed everything. The ambulance ride blurred. Michael remembered the oxygen mask, the tight grip of a paramedic checking his pulse, the static hum of a radio dispatch. His manager was shouting into a cell phone in the front seat. The pain hadn't fully arrived yet. His body was still in shock, adrenaline masking the damage. He kept his eyes closed and tried to steady his breathing. At Brotman Medical Center, they took him straight to the burn unit. No waiting room, no paperwork in the lobby. A nurse cut away the singed fabric stuck to his scalp while a doctor examined the wound under a harsh exam light. 2nd-degree burns, they said. Maybe 3rd degree in 2 spots. The hair follicles were gone in a patch the size of a silver dollar. They'd need to clean the damaged tissue, apply burn medication, wrap it in gauze. He'd need to stay for observation and treatment. Michael nodded through all of it. He didn't ask questions. He just watched the nurses work, their hands quick, efficient, trained. One of them, a woman in her 40s with tired eyes, kept glancing at his face like she wanted to say something but couldn't figure out how. Finally, as she taped the last edge of the bandage, she whispered, "My daughter loves your music." He tried to smile. It hurt to move his jaw. "Thank you." She paused, then added, "There's a young patient down the hall, house fire a few weeks back." She hesitated. "He keeps asking if you're really here." Michael looked at her. "Can I see him?" She blinked. "You just got burned yourself." "I know." Notice what Michael didn't say. He didn't ask how bad the kid was. He didn't ask if it was safe. He just asked if he could go. That instinct to move toward pain instead of away from it was about to reshape everything. They put him in a private room on the 3rd floor, curtains drawn, lights low. His head throbbed under the gauze. Every time he shifted on the pillow, the burned skin pulled tight, sending sharp little shocks down his neck. The doctor had offered pain medication, but he refused a 2nd dose. He didn't like the way it made his thoughts swim. Around midnight, he couldn't sleep. The hospital was too quiet, the kind of silence that makes you hyper-aware of every sound. Footsteps in the hall, a distant monitor beeping, the hiss of the ventilation system. He got out of bed slowly, testing his balance, and walked to the door. The hallway was empty, except for a nurse at the far end, filling out charts under a desk lamp. He turned left and walked. The burn unit was its own wing, sealed off, climate-controlled, staffed by specialists who moved between rooms like ghosts. Michael passed 3 doors before he saw it. A room with the lights still on, a small figure sitting upright in bed, a woman asleep in the chair beside him. The boy. Michael stopped at the doorway. The kid couldn't have been more than 9, thin and small for his age, his arms wrapped in white bandages from wrist to shoulder. His face was untouched, dark eyes, serious expression, but the rest of him was hidden under layers of gauze and medical tape. He was staring at a muted TV mounted on the wall, some late-night rerun flickering in blue light. Michael knocked softly on the doorframe. The boy turned. His eyes went wide. "Hi," Michael said. The boy didn't answer. He just stared, mouth half open, like he wasn't sure if he was awake or dreaming. Michael stepped inside, moving carefully, keeping his voice low so he wouldn't wake the mother. "I heard you were here. Thought I'd say hello." He sat down on the edge of the bed, careful not to jostle anything. "What's your name?" The boy blinked. "David." "David, that's a good name." Michael glanced at the bandages. "How you feeling?" David shrugged, then winced. Even that small movement hurt. "It's okay. The nurse says I'm getting better." "That's great. That's really great." They sat in silence for a moment. The TV flickered. Somewhere down the hall, a monitor beeped twice and stopped. David looked at Michael's head, wrapped in gauze. "Did you get burned too?" "Yeah, accident on set." "Does it hurt?" "A little, but I'll be okay." Michael leaned forward slightly. "You're brave, you know that?" David looked down at his hands. "I'm scared when they change the bandages." "I bet. But you're here. You're still fighting. That's what brave means." The boy's lip trembled, just once, and then he nodded. Here's the part you can't miss. When Michael walked back to his room that night, he didn't go to sleep. He sat on the edge of the bed for 2 hours, staring at the wall, thinking about what he'd just seen. And when discussions began about the settlement with Pepsi, he already knew what he was going to do. The formal meeting happened weeks later in a conference room. Michael's attorney sat to his left, a legal pad covered in notes. Across the table, 3 Pepsi representatives in pressed suits, a PR consultant, and a corporate lawyer who did most of the talking. "We're prepared to offer $1.5 million, the lawyer said, sliding a folder across the table. "Full settlement, standard terms." Michael's attorney opened the folder, scanned the first page, nodded. "That's reasonable." Michael didn't touch the folder. He looked at the Pepsi lawyer. "I want to donate it." The room went still. "I'm sorry," the lawyer said. "The money. I want it to go to the hospital, to the burn unit." His attorney turned. "Michael." "All of it," Michael continued. "I want them to build something, a center, for people like David." The Pepsi consultant leaned forward. "Mr. Jackson, we're offering you compensation for, I know what you're offering, and I'm telling you where I want it to go." The attorney's pen hovered over the legal pad. "This is highly unusual. I don't care." One of the Pepsi reps cleared his throat. "If this is a negotiating tactic, it's not." Michael's voice was calm, flat. "I've already decided." His attorney closed the folder. "Michael, can we talk privately for a moment?" They stepped into the hallway. The attorney kept his voice low but firm. "Do you understand what you're giving up? That's significant money. You could invest it, set up a trust, do 100 things that would benefit you and others." Michael looked at him. "I met a kid in that burn unit, 9 years old. His arms are wrapped in bandages, and he's scared when the nurses come to change them because it hurts so much. There are other people on that floor just like him. They don't have the resources I have." He paused. "I got burned for a few seconds. They live with it every day. So, yeah, I understand what I'm giving up, and I'm telling you this is what I want." The attorney studied his face for a long moment. Then he nodded. "All right, we'll make it happen. Wait, here's what most people never heard." When they went back into that conference room and Michael confirmed the donation, one of the Pepsi reps asked if he wanted his name on the center. Michael said yes. Not for publicity, not for legacy. He wanted burn victims walking into that building to know that someone who'd been hurt the same way they were had made sure they'd be taken care of. The Michael Jackson Burn Center opened within a year. Michael attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony, his hair grown back in uneven patches, a hat covering the scars. He stood next to the hospital director and a dozen doctors, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. He smiled for the photos, shook hands, gave a short speech about healing and hope, but the moment he remembered, the one that mattered, happened after the cameras left. He walked through the new wing, past the state-of-the-art treatment rooms, the specialized therapy baths, the pediatric recovery suites, and in the hallway he saw families, parents holding their children's hands, patients in wheelchairs talking quietly with nurses, the soft hum of a place built to heal. A young boy, maybe 10, noticed him and stared. Michael knelt down. "Hi," Michael said. The boy looked at the scars on Michael's scalp, barely visible under the hat. "You were hurt too?" "Yeah, but I'm okay now." The boy nodded slowly. "Me too. Getting better." "That's good, real good." Michael stood and looked around at the bright hallway, the fresh paint, the sunlight coming through the windows. "This place is going to help a lot of people." The boy smiled. Michael walked back toward the lobby. The hospital director caught up with him at the elevator. "Mr. Jackson, the board wanted me to tell you, this center is going to save lives, hundreds of them, maybe thousands." Michael pressed the button for the ground floor. The elevator doors slid open. He stepped inside, turned, and looked back at the hallway. The clean white walls, the soft lighting, the quiet hum of healing. "Good," he said. The doors closed. The Michael Jackson Burn Center at Brotman Medical Center treated thousands of patients over the decades that followed. Michael never talked about the donation in interviews. He didn't use it for publicity. When reporters asked, he'd just say, "I wanted to do something." That's it. No grand statement. No moral lesson. Just a man who got burned, saw other people suffering worse, and decided his pain could mean something if it helped them heal. That's the story. That's what happened when the lights went white hot and everything stopped. And that's why, decades later, when people ask what Michael Jackson's legacy really is, beyond the music, beyond the fame, some of us think of families in bright hospital hallways, children smiling through recovery, knowing someone cared enough to make sure they'd be taken care of. Because that moment, the one where he chose to give instead of take, that's the one that lasts.